Questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go for it.
Okay, my question is very simple. How to study anatomy or how to analyze anatomy and do better studies of it? How
Good.
do you manage that?
One of the best ways to study anatomy is to start simple. Like
Okay.
everything that I learn, I always start simple. I mean, this is pretty universal. There's like lots of self-help books and tutorials, and the ones that do the best tend to start simple, give you an idea that you can understand, and then go from there.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I apply the same knowledge to everything that I ever learned. So like when I'm learning programming, it's the same idea. I start simple, things that I can understand, and then move on to things that are a little bit more challenging. And so I had a friend who was studying anatomy, and he just went straight to it and like started trying to draw like arms and body and all that stuff. But there's just like he doesn't even know how to draw a sphere.
Okay.
Okay. So I told him, draw a sphere first and draw a lot of them. Then draw cylinders, then draw cubes, and then turn those cubes in space, and then turn those spheres in space, and turn those cylinders in space, and turn those pyramids, and so on and so forth. You understand?
Yeah.
And so then once he was able to do that, then I said, okay, now look at anatomy, okay, and then try to understand anatomy, okay. And then I told him, but take account what you learned from the lesson about painting spheres. Like, what did you do? And he said, I started simple. And I said, okay, so then let's do that again. But this time we're going to start with simple anatomy. So for instance, instead of starting with like this, the whole body, just start with the arm and just the upper part of the arm. And don't just go straight to anatomy, just try to find the basic understanding of the forms. Does this make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then once he did that, then I said, okay, now try to understand the more complicated, nuanced parts of anatomy. You know?
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, now once you've understand that, then let's try to understand a different body part following the same logic. And like I think you move on to the torso. Then I said, okay, now move on to the head now after the torso. And so the best way to study, I wouldn't just say anatomy, but just anything, is just start where you're at. You understand?
Okay.
Start where you're at. Where are you at? Start there. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, like, so for instance, let's boot up some programming. Let's do some programming. The reason why I like doing this programming stuff, we can go to demo tet. While that's low down, we keep painting this. We have time. I can paint this and do a little bit of programming to make a point.
Cool.
But the point that I'm trying to make at the moment, hopefully you understand.
Okay. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it's just a lot of information, and so you need to just understand bits and parts of the information. That's it, and then just keep adding to it as time goes on. That's really all it is. It's not incredibly complicated. Just people like to make it complicated. People try to mystify. People try to make things more mystified than they like actually are.
Yeah, I know.
And
I have like these books of anatomy of George Bridgman, I studied a lot of this, and it's very simple, like you told me.
Yeah.
The most of people don't explain very well, like George Bridgman or other artists like study anatomy.
Yeah, he is he was a drunk, so that's why it's really hard to understand.
Yeah, I know.
No, he was like, he literally was a drunk. In fact, there's some drawings of his where like he's explaining like this is the anatomy of like the right leg or something, but it's actually the left leg. Yeah, because he's a drunk. And so he just didn't correct it, and he didn't care to correct it. So that's why it's important to not only just do that, but to look at other resources. Don't just look at the same 2 or 3.
Yeah, I look for Charles Brave too. And there is another artist that is teaching anatomy online. It's called Stan Prokopenko.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. So I have a course of anatomy of him too.
Yeah, he's one of the better ones, for sure. And he studies from even better ones, Andrew Loomis.
Yeah, from Andrew Loomis.
Yeah. So why don't you study from Andrew Loomis as well? Go to the source. Right? And it's really just about, like I said, keeping it simple. Start small.
Okay.
When you say a study from Andrew Loomis, what is what I have to do? Because I have the book, I draw the picture, I try to understand, but I don't think it's getting anywhere.
I mean, I think you already know the answer to this. Like, if you've done like 2 or 3 drawings out of the book, then that's probably why. And out of those 2 or 3 drawings, you didn't study. If you didn't understand it, so you just said, "Well, that's it." You gotta keep doing it then. Like that's what studying is. You understand? Like, people don't realize that studying isn't just some act of just copy paste. That's just one of the things you do. That's just like one of the steps out of many. You understand? I mean, just look at the definition of study, and you'll know what you've been doing wrong. The devotion of time and attention to acquire knowledge on an academic subject, especially by means of books. I mean, we can remove the last part of it for the sake of subject matter. So we can just focus on this first sentence, or first part of the sentence: the devotion of time and attention to acquire knowledge, right? And if we go to the second example, a detailed investigation and analysis of a subject or situation, that's even more accurate. So ask yourself, did you do a detailed investigation and analysis of the subject or situation, or did you devote a lot of time and attention to acquire knowledge?
I read the book and I draw the picture, so I think I tried, but yeah.
I mean, I feel you have to understand my skepticism. Like, when I studied anatomy, I'd filled 2 sketchbooks full in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And when I studied anatomy, I did it for 1.5 years of going to life drawing every day. I'm not doing anything different than you guys can't do. You guys just aren't doing it. That's all I'm saying. Do you understand?
Yeah.
The problem is you feel like you should learn because you put some time in. I'm saying, no, you have to keep putting time in to keep on learning. And just because you didn't understand it at the time doesn't mean that it wasn't there. Maybe you weren't ready for it. Maybe you had to pull back and study somewhere else and then come back to those books. And I can tell you right now that might not be true, because Andrew Loomis does a really good job of breaking down anatomy. Trust me. So I don't think it's more of a Andrew Loomis problem. I think it's more of a user error. You understand?
Yeah, for sure.
I think he does a really great job of breaking it down, and that's why his book is very popular.
I don't blame Loomis. I don't blame Loomis.
And so then that's why I'm very skeptical that you didn't put enough time. That's what I'm trying to say. I think it's more realistic that you didn't draw enough versus he didn't give you good instruction. Because if we really look at it like this alone, without even reading, this alone is incredibly knowledgeable. Like this is really valuable. Like, oh yeah, of course we can wedge the skulls. And I filled literally tens of dozens of pages of just this. I didn't even get past like the overture. Right? I was like, what? Okay, let's do this. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And then I was like, oh shit, that makes perfect sense. Right? And then like if you just keep going, like, did you do all these drawings? And then did you do them all on your own without looking at it? And if so, how many did you do? And then if you got something wrong, then what did you do about it? See, when I said look at the definition, it's not just copy. Copy is what you may have done.
Yeah, I copy.
Yeah. And so like copy a thing made to be similar or identical to another. And remember, study.
That's the thing.
Yeah, study was different. Remember, it's like extreme analysis, time and devotion to acquire knowledge, not to replicate. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And so when I said that you actually didn't study, that's what I mean. I really don't believe you. And so you have to stop using the word study unless you truly study, because if you did, then you wouldn't have this problem. Do you understand?
You know what? Before I speak, I was sure to have a study. Now that you are putting the definition into, I didn't study. I can see
and there you
clearly.
go. Yeah, because it's not about just drawing, because then you're just copying. And don't get me wrong, I even said in the beginning that it's just one of the steps to help you study. It's like a tool. Okay, copying is a great tool. It helps you check your answers. It helps you understand your own, like the tools, like copying and something like is a great way to help you understand a application or like a way to paint, right? But it won't give you any information in your mind because you didn't acquire any knowledge. All the knowledge was there for you. You just copied it, you know? And so like, if you have a hard time constructing heads, it's not because you didn't go page by page. Like if you drew, and honestly, if you drew every page in this book, even if you weren't actively studying, that alone would be enough because your brain will still just kind of register without you paying attention. It will start just doing it for you, you know, because you put so much time in, right? But if you are actively studying, it just moves faster. That's all. And so when I've been telling you guys to study, this is exactly what I've been meaning, you know, and you have to understand that I don't consider it studying unless you've acquired knowledge. So if you say that you studied and you didn't learn anything, I say to you, then you didn't study. Like, here's a great way of thinking about this. Okay. Think about it like this, just really simply, very simple. You have a test. It's a math test. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a math test. All right. And then I have a bunch of questions that you don't know what the questions are. It's a mystery. It's a test. Okay. But the subject matter, we understand it's algebra. Okay. And you have books to study. Got it?
Yeah.
For this test. Okay. And so now you take the test and you get an F. What does that mean?
I didn't pass the test.
Yeah, but why?
You didn't study.
I studied, but not enough.
Not enough,
Yeah. Or maybe you didn't study it accurately. Maybe you didn't do the right thing. So what should you do?
I didn't get the information to succeed the test.
Okay. So what should you do?
Study more.
Study more. It's that simple. That's all I'm trying to get through to you guys, you know? For whatever reason, people feel that when what they think they did, they studied, right?
Yeah.
And then they fail the test. They say the study, whatever the material was, that's the problem. And I'm saying, nope. You're the problem. You failed the test because you don't understand. You know, there's a really great thing that is said, that was said during like some sort of couples counseling seminar. This is from a book that I was reading called The Compound Effect. And during the seminar, they said, who's responsible for the relationship in terms of percentage? Like, how much are you responsible in your relationship with your partner? And most people said like 50-50. I'm 50% responsible. They're 50% responsible for the relationship. Right?
Mm.
And the guy said, that's wrong. You're 100% responsible.
Yeah.
Okay. And people were like, what? And he said, because if you were relying on the other person.
Yeah, you can control only your side.
Yeah, exactly. If you're relying on the other person to carry their weight in the relationship, then maybe you're not in a good relationship anyway. Right? Because you can only truly control your side without violence, at least. Right? You can only truly control your end of the bargain. And so you have to put 100% effort. So meaning that if you feel that, let's say, your partner is not giving you enough attention, instead of blaming them for not giving you enough attention, you should ask yourself, what is it that I can do to help them see that I need more attention, right? And what can I do to make them feel like they want to give me more attention, right? What is it that I can do? And or maybe I don't need as much attention as I think I do, and maybe I'm over demanding attention. You can control all of these things, right? You can't control them giving you more attention. That is one factor that is objectively true, right?
All right.
Think about becoming a good artist. You will have the tests and you can fail the tests, but the only true thing that you can do is get better, right? And the way to do that is to obtain knowledge. You have to understand that all, like, there was a time where maybe what you were saying to me would have been true. Like, the subject matter or the tools are not available. In fact, that's where the words talent and genius came from, is because people couldn't understand how people got so good, right? Like, literally, they just could not understand it because the people who had access to that happened to have access to it. And even those people didn't really understand it. Okay? Right?
Yeah.
This is why Michelangelo hated Leonardo da Vinci, because Michelangelo used to go into people's homes, steal their paintings so he could study them. When he used to build his statues and sculptures, he would go to the mountains, build a trail up to the mountains that he would find the material that he needed, build a crate, then take the materials back to his studio, and that would be like a week's worth of work just to get the tools to build. Okay? You know, and Leonardo da Vinci was born under aristocrat family. He was basically middle class born. He was born with a wealthy family. You understand? So he had access to all of these great tools. He had access to some of the best and greatest painters available to him. Michelangelo had to work for it. So that's why I like Michelangelo's story more than Leonardo da Vinci's. They're both great artists, though. But one obviously earned it. And so he was the kind of person that would be like what I'm saying to you, like, fuck talent. You understand?
Yeah.
But Leonardo da Vinci didn't understand, and that's why he didn't achieve success until his mid-40s, because he was entitled. You understand?
Yeah.
And so you have to realize that during that time, I would let you have a pass, because it was, like I said, Michelangelo had to steal paintings, you get it, to study. And he did an incredible amount of study. And even Leonardo da Vinci, as entitled as he was and privileged as he would go and take people's corpses and take them apart so he could study them, understand what was going on in the inside. Make sense? That is what study is. And you are only in control of that. And like I said, I don't have sympathy for you guys when you guys don't study, because you are living in the age of information. It is literally at your fingertips. If you have a smartphone, you can learn anything. And I mean it. Anything. Okay? Like, I'm learning I'm doing Khan Academy on my phone. Do you understand how fucking crazy that is? I'm learning linear algebra for free, you know? And I got like 3, I just got another book. I got like 3 books. What you call it? Here we go. Let me see if I can, 3 books for free. Right?
Cool. But you very productivity.
Huh?
You have a very high skill of productivity.
Oh yeah. Because I'm not delusional. That's right. Because I understand that I am an entitled individual. That means I have a lot of access, or I'm sorry, privileged individual, because I have a lot of access, and I am not delusional to that. So if you were a starving kid in Africa who happened to scrounge up the town, the village money to take my course at a PC cafe that only allows you an hour at a time to take my course, and then you told me the things that you said, like I don't know how to study, I would then be really aggressive about how to find tools to get this person to study better. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because that person clearly don't have access to the resources. But that's the irony, though, right? They were resourceful enough to take my classes, so they figured it out anyway, you know?
Yeah.
And I've only had like 1 or 2 students who were not like at that level that was like really disconnected from the rest of the world, but people that were in countries that are not doing so well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely have sympathy for them when it comes to this. But for most of you, I just don't believe that's necessarily true. So you really got to believe me that if you're starting to think that maybe I didn't learn anything from the book, you should really take a second and believe me when I say it's probably most likely you. Okay, especially if it's a book that is very popular and very well known to be a great instructional tool. Okay.
By the way, I just want to say a few words. Talking about anatomy, I mentioned that you don't talk about Gottfried Bamas. Know him?
Oh, I've never heard of him.
No.
Yeah, maybe seen his work. I have like over. Yeah, I have like
academy study on his books. So he's very cool to study academy on his book. I think even much better than that book that you show just a few minutes ago.
Oh yeah, Andrew Loomis is great, but I'm sure there's better ones. There's another artist that I think does a better job as well. His name is he just passed away, John Watkiss. He had a really good instructional book, but that's the point I'm making, is that it's your job to find out. Okay, maybe Andrew Loomis didn't work for you, but then you have to find better alternatives then, or you need to find someone who can give you the right starting place.
Can you repeat please his name? Oh.
Yeah, John Walker. You guys just share any resources that you think are great in the Skype, so that way everybody has access. That's probably a good idea. His name is John Watkiss. He had this book that it was like this very small book. It was like only a few pages, and it's incredible. I learned a lot from that book, but I learned a lot from Andrew Loomis's book, from Steve Hampton's book, from or Michael Hampton, from Glenn Villepeu, from the Anatomy for an Artist book, from George Bridgman, from I forget how to say his name, but Bogart, something Herth Bogart. Like that guy had some freaking knowledge bombs as well. There's plenty of great examples, but the reason why I feel really, passionate about making this point, like people just, and I think you just said it just a moment ago. You just already kind of acknowledged it, right? You're like, as we're talking, I realized, I was not studying.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a good step in the right direction, right? And the reason why I think it's important is because I also had that same epiphany you just had a moment ago. You understand? As like I told you guys, the reason why you guys will accelerate faster than I did, not because I'm giving you like some secret trick to be a better painter, right? I'm just convincing you sooner. That's all. Does that make sense? Because I wasn't convinced until like 3 years in. And then I started realizing, oh, I'm doing this all wrong. Like I'm thinking that there's some magic trick. I've been trying different brushes. I've been trying different tools. I've been trying different books and whatever. Oh no, it's just like straight brute force. Put your head in the books and understand how things work. That is by far the fastest and most effective way. It's just not glorious. It's just not entertaining or even fun. It's simple, it's mundane, it's tedious, but it is by far the most effective tool.
Okay.
You know, there is nothing else as I've seen, you know, for now. And if there is, you'll be sure to hear about it. I'm positive. Okay. And that's why I stopped focusing on motivation, like I told you guys before. Not because I don't think motivation is a powerful tool. It's great. It's just not reliable. You understand? Yeah, because if you're relying on motivation and inspiration to get you going, that only works for those who are really devoted, right? Because they just have such incredible passion. But I would be a liar if I said that I'm always passionate. That's just not true, right? In fact, I think a lot of people who may say that are lying to you, okay? Because it's easy to be passionate about something you're already good at, you know? It's incredibly hard to be passionate at something that you're terrible at.
Yeah, it's difficult to when you do something and it's it's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
So
have to repeat and repeat.
So yeah, like I mean, let's see. Let's make a new scene here. Create a new scene. And where is the scene? Oh yeah, there you go. Scene mesh. Actually, we should do 3. Maybe we can type in, or I'll just put demo. Advanced. I just put demo. I'm thinking too much. All right. So let's put the camo right here. All right, that's fine for now. And let's go ahead and create an object. Let's reset this so the origin is there. We'll call this mesh. All right. And then let's go ahead and create well, we can just do this way. Let's create a script. We'll call it make mesh. Sweet deal. So as I was learning how to make a mesh, I learned that I needed to create an array of vertices, and the vertices that are vector 3s, right? Vector 3 vertices. And so we'll call it vertices, and then we'll close it off. But it's not an array, so let's go ahead and make it an array. All right, and then I needed to make triangles, and triangles is just a number, like how many triangles, like how many polygons, basically. We call it triangles, right? So I've created 2 variables right here, and we don't need to update. We can give the update function for now. But one thing that I need to do is I need to like initialize certain stuff, so that way it's like all programmed, like all in the code. I don't want to have anything basically created in the editor, because if it's all created in the editor, then I have to have access to the editor. And in the engine that I'm building, or the software that I'm building, then I can't do that. It's not smart, because it will prevent me from letting the user do whatever they want. And more importantly, it will prevent me from creating something of value. Or have more control over it. And so this is really important. So I spent a lot of time, like the last 4 days, just really understanding everything I've just done. And so we need to require a component, and I believe it's in parentheses. We get type of, and then we have to put the kind of component. We'll do mesh filter. So this is Unity's way of basically creating and putting in this component without me manually putting it in. So as soon as whatever script is attached to this component, it's good to go. And so then there's a few other components that we need. We need another one, mesh renderer. right? So that way we can render it. Okay, what was another one that I needed? That's it. I think I added like a rigid body, but that was just for different reasons. And then I want to be able to basically run this in editor. I think it's execute in editor. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and see what happens, right? So as I would imagine, it's going to compile. So if we go over here, see the mesh once it's attached. If I go, I think if I just do reset,
will happen magic.
Yeah, actually, let's reapply it and see what happens. Oh, there you go. Perfect. So it added the mesh renderer and added a mesh filter. It added both of them. Great. Awesome. Right. And so now I have the two things, and I didn't have to do this because like this is through the editor. I have to add these components like through the editor usually. You know what I mean? And so I learned all this, man. Like I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. And I was just scouring documents after documents. I've been reading forum posts after forum posts and just incredible amount of resources. And so I was like, okay, I want to add a basic material, and you'll see why in just a second. Actually, I won't get too much into it because it's going to take a little too much time. I don't want to spend 10 minutes on this because it'll take me about 10 minutes to set this all up to create the triangles. But my point is that what you need to do next is you need to be able to essentially get these points. And so what I did was I made it public so that way I can have access to it. And this is just specifically so I can mess around with it. And so I can really point one, public v3.2, whoops, public v3.3. And so now if I save this out and it compiles, you'll see that this will allow me an option to now change where the points are at, which is really nice. So that I think it's like, actually I did this wrong. So this is 0, this is 3, and then this is 3, and this is 0. Okay. So this will make a triangle, right? Because it's gonna find the first vertice, the second vertice, and the third vertice. And then what I got to do is basically find where the vertices are at, right? And then I have to essentially create a mesh. So let's go ahead and let's do that. So what would that be? That would be a mesh filter mesh. And so essentially all I'm doing here, and I'm not going to do the code because I don't want to spend the next 10 minutes, but I can do it. I assure you I can. I have to make these vertices define these triangles, and then those triangles define the mesh. That's pretty much how it goes. So if we had to put it into the order that actually works. And Unity actually provides a lot of stuff for you for free, like the normals and the UVs, but I can program that too. But I don't know it well enough. So that would be something that I need to learn next. But that's something that I would put on the list of things to understand fully. And then what I would do next is basically I would code in right here, I would code in how to find these vertices, right? How to then apply those vertices to this triangle, and then apply those triangles to this mesh. And then it will render. And then what I've done previously too was allowed the code to make essentially apply a material onto my mesh. And I know how to do all of that, okay? But I first started simply by just making a triangle. I didn't worry about anything else. I didn't even worry about this stuff right here, right? I only worried about just making a triangle. So I made a triangle. It worked, right? And then I worried about, here, let me close this out. Yeah, I made a triangle, and then I worried about making a, what is it? The mesh, and out of the triangles. And so it took me like 2 days to really understand it, right? Because at first I copied it, right? Like I just copied what the code was, and just like, so I could feel it out, see what's going on, right? But I didn't understand it. And so then the next day, I spent like a good 2 hours just trying to understand it. And the best way to understand it is try to break it, like try to test it out, try to manipulate the features and materials. You see what I'm saying? And I just did that like for like a whole 2 hours, just really focusing on it. And then yesterday, I understood how to do it. So I made a cube. And then the next thing that I was trying to understand is how do I apply a material onto a thing all through code? And I found that information really quickly and I understood it immediately. So then I moved on to another problem that I wanted to understand, which was how do I manipulate those points, right? And that also wasn't too challenging. And so now today I'm going to study and understand how to be able to either create a cube through programming, right? And actually I watched several videos already. I understand the concept of it, right? But I just don't agree with it. But I wonder if there's a better solution with the videos that I've seen, but it might be the only one. But at the same time, I also want to start to create ways to manipulate other than just moving, like adding and subtracting to geometry, like adding more triangles and adding more or subtracting triangles, essentially. And I don't know how to do that, but by next week, at least at the end of next week, you'll see a GIF or a GIF of me doing it, and then AJ figured it out. Because I will just do one thing a lot, and what would that be? What do you think that would be?
That is cool. But I just want to...
What do you think that would be? What do you think that I would do to accomplish this goal that I have in my mind? Studying, yeah. until I absolutely understand it. Absolutely.
Study, it's eternal process. Yeah, we all life we study.
All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Any other questions?
How do you get Instagram followers?
Posting a lot, all the time. Yeah. The better you are, the easier it becomes, obviously. Right. But even the best artists have low amounts of followers, mainly because they don't post often. That's usually what it is.
Do you think that has a role to play in gaining clients and networking?
Of course. I mean, just think about it. If people know that you're an awesome artist, the better chances you have to get awesome jobs. Right? Kim Jong-gi, people are going nuts about him now, but he was a nobody like a few years ago. Nobody knew who he was.
Yeah.
It's not like he was just spawned and then was this badass artist. Like he was obviously a badass for quite a while. You understand?
Right.
That someone shared a video of him painting or drawing, and it blew up. That's the power of social networking. That's exactly what it does. Do you understand? And so that's why you should do it. Like I get offers all the time. I saw you on Instagram, or I saw you on ArtStation, or I saw you on whatever social program that they prefer, whatever their poison is.
Do you think that Instagram and ArtStation are the probably the top two for this industry?
Definitely ArtStation.
ArtStation, yeah.
I don't know about Instagram. I'm still indifferent about it.
What do you think about DeviantArt?
Huh?
What do you think about DeviantArt?
DeviantArt is good too, yeah. There's a lot of furries on there, but there's also a lot of badasses.
I had an editor come do a talk in one of my classes from DC, and she told our class that she still checks DeviantArt for like portfolios. I was really surprised by that, honestly, but
yeah, this is the problem that people have. It's you live in an echo chamber, right? You think that what you think is like, I don't go to DeviantArt. Like subconsciously in your mind, you're thinking that that's probably an unpopular platform, but just go to it. You're objectively wrong. It's incredibly popular, right? And what ends up happening is people tend to get more pretentious too as the better they get. And so they think they're better than something like that, right? And I'm not speaking for any of you guys. I'm just saying in general, this is kind of the perception, right? and it's just objectively wrong. So I also share on DeviantArt because it doesn't take me any more effort. It takes literally like a minute more of my time. It's not a hassle. I do it on my phone. I go through like this 10-minute process of like uploading on ArtStation, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and DeviantArt. And sometimes I miss one, or sometimes I don't post on every single one. But there's definitely the ones I post on often, which is Instagram and ArtStation, right? And so, yeah, of course, it plays a good role for obvious reasons, right? And it doesn't take a lot of effort. That's another thing. It really isn't that hard to post. It's hard to make artwork, but it's hard to post. It isn't hard to post that artwork.
Do you post the same artwork in ArtStation and Instagram?
Yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't I?
People was saying to Instagram is more like you can post some study, some ongoing art, and ArtStation is more for the final, for the pro art and your best art. Don't post your study or your sketch in ArtStation.
Yeah, maybe. I'd still post it anyway.
Okay.
I want to propose.
Yeah, I don't care. I just post everywhere purely for just followers.
And I want to propose to talk a little bit about personal maybe topics about ourselves, because about works we can, I don't know, for me it's interesting to know a little bit about you as a person, because I just can buy your works on Gameroad, yeah?
Uh-huh.
You don't mind. I'm just curious, how long you are married?
We've been married for about 6 years now. I think we're going on to 6 years.
Not so long.
No. Actually,
You better know.
about 6 years. About 6 or 7. Yeah. My daughter was. Yeah, you know what? It was about almost 6 years. We're going to be going on to 6. Because my daughter was there when she was 1, so she's 6 now, so it'll be 5 years total. But we've already gone to the better part of this. So actually, it's like a 5 years and a half. That's really what it is. Yeah, the best way to remember. That's how I remember. My daughter was there.
And do you read sometimes something not for study but for
for like pleasure or recreational purposes?
Yeah, but no, I'm just like for study, but not what you need to work for now. Not about programming, not about drawing.
Oh no, I don't read anything. I hate reading. Like books. Like I hate reading books. Like
Are you
like
serious?
storybooks. Yeah, like if there's like a story and it's like there was once a dark alleyway and
No, but
the adventures of this rabbit goes like that, I fall asleep, man. I watch movies for my stories.
You just talk like about some primitive stories, but the writers.
No, even like Stephen King, who I think is one of my favorite writers, not by his writing, but by principle of like who he is.
But Stephen King is right too for entertainment.
Yeah. No, I don't read anything other than the things that I care about knowing.
Okay.
And then the things that I do for fun have nothing to do with my knowledge or anything like that, right? It's usually playing with my children, watching movies, playing video games, hanging out with friends, these types of things.
In what game?
Mostly social interaction is where I get away from my professional life. But when it comes to reading, like I hate reading, but I will read a whole from front to cover or front to back a whole book about something if I need the knowledge. You know what I mean? I'll fight through it because I don't give a fuck, right? I need to know. I need to learn.
Yeah.
Right? And
What's
so,
your favorite thing to learn up on then? At the moment, yes.
Wait, what? Oh, the internet.
Yeah.
The internet is my favorite tool. Everything is there. Like I would watch literally 7 different videos from 7 different people about the same topic, and I would read 3 different articles in 4 different forums about all on the same topic.
Do you ever get into conspiracy theories and stuff like that?
Oh no, I don't fall for that unless like there's some
All for that. Some
Yeah.
of it's true, man. I'm telling you.
unless there's some legs to stand on. Like if there's some real
Grounded information.
like if I can think about it and think to myself, yeah, that makes sense, you know, then I might look into it. But historically speaking, conspiracies are patently wrong. Like historically speaking, like statistically looking, if you look at the statistics, there's just majority of them are not true. For instance, whenever people get really caught up in like conspiracy theories, there's a pattern, okay, of conspiracy theorists, and you have to be very cautious of this pattern if you're in it. Is that if you fall for one conspiracy, then you'll fall for all of them. And what ends up happening is that it's because of the algorithms. You see YouTube and Facebook, they don't give a fuck what you're looking at. They only want to keep you engaged. So if you like this conspiracy, maybe you'll be interested in this conspiracy. Do you see how that works? So if you go to like my YouTube, it's like programming, vegan stuff, and politics at the moment, right? And if I go to yours, maybe it's about, this is hypothetical. I'm just making
right.
It's like flat Earth, chemtrails, 9/11 was a hoax. I'm serious. Like that's the thing. And so remember I was talking about echo chambers. This is literally what an echo chamber is. Do you understand? And what these algorithms do is they compound those echo chambers. Do you get it? So I generally try to like think about it for a second. So for instance, I was listening to mostly left-leaning politics, left-leaning, because I am mostly left, right?
Right.
And I realized that I was in my own echo chamber, and because I started to disagree with left politics, and I was like, wait a minute, I actually disagree with that. And I was like, wait a minute, conservatives are saying that they disagree with this too. And I was like, maybe they aren't all idiots. Because at one point I thought that. And then I started listening to more and more conservative media. And then that's when I started to realize that I was truly in an echo chamber. And there was actually a lot of conservative principles that I actually agree with than I disagree with. Right? So for instance, a very conservative talking point is that men and women are different, right? And I actually agree with that. And I think where the disconnect is that people think that men or women are better than men or women. And I think that's where most left people try to say, no, everybody is equal. And then conservatives are saying, but we aren't. Just look at us.
We can be equal and different.
And so the middle ground, the reality is that we are obviously different, right? We are clearly different, and nobody complains about it if you look at a tall person versus a short person. But for whatever reason, when you start to looking at the skin color or the gender, those are untouchable. Those are taboo. But maybe there's some reality there. And what the left, which I agree with, are trying to fight for is not about that we are equal. It's that we should be treated equally without bias. So if I walk into the store and you speak Spanish, I shouldn't just assume that you're an immigrant. Like that guy that just happened in New York, right? That is racist.
That's
he doesn't actually, he doesn't understand. But he's not wrong to suspect that or have some argument or some bearing that because you live in this country, it's predominantly English. Maybe you should learn some of it. But he was assuming too much. Maybe she already speaks English. How does he fucking know? You know? And he should treat her like everybody else, you know, and hold his strong opinions to himself.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I think most reasonable and rational people agree on, right? And I think conservatives lean more on this idea that stop thinking that we're all equal, because you create policies like affirmative action that are like trying to, because you're black and poor, we're going to give you an advantage. And that's not right, because that is truly racist. Because what ended up happening was that Asian people who were fucking killing it were getting punished because they were so good. for whatever cultural or ethnic reason, they just happen to be fucking dominating in colleges. They had to score higher scores because they happen to be Asian. And because you're poor and black, you can get lower scores and still get access to these same schools. And the reality is that's not a true merit-based system, and that's why it's illegal now in California.
I think it's
and that's a conservative talking point. Do you understand? Like that's a right-leaning talking point that I agree with, because I think it should be based on merit. I understand it sucks. Some people were born in circumstances that are not great, and they are unlucky. They did nothing wrong but be born in the wrong circumstance, right? There's better ways to help these people than just give them a free pass. You have to put them, because what you end up doing, and this is the way I used to teach, you treat everybody like they're supposed to race at the pace of a cheetah. You're going to lose all the other people who can't keep up, right? And what you should do is you find them where they're at, and you teach them at where they're at. That's why everybody in my class does so much better, because everybody is at different levels. It's naive as a teacher to assume you should just be at this pace,
right?
And to just assume that this person is going to pull up from their bootstraps just because you give them that access is patently and objectively wrong. And the statistics prove it. People who have access to these schools that are not qualified drop out at a higher rate because it's just overwhelming, right? And so there's better solutions. You start earlier, like you have to, and these are more left-leaning policies. Like you give people access to free education. Yeah, you know what? Your mom was a crack addict. You were born in a community of gangsters and drug dealers. But you know what? College is free. If you can get into this college, you can go without going bankrupt, right? That's a great solution to this problem. So that person, it may take them 5 more years than, let's say, some really privileged Asian kid, whatever, like who has access to this stuff at a very young age. That's fine. That's just how the world works. Everyone is at different places. You can't, you don't want to make everything equal results, because then you fuck everything up, right? And that's my point. And so, getting back to, not to get too political, I generally try to get out of the echo chamber, right? And I think a lot of conspiracy theorists tend to stay in the same echo chambers, and that's why I generally question their conspiracies. But there's some that I see that have some merit. There's more and more evidence surfacing on the JFK assassination, right? And there could be some merit there, but I really don't know. And I don't really dig deep into that because I honestly don't care.
A couple of weeks ago, you mentioned you brought up Jordan Peterson, and
oh yeah.
And I was looking into that guy, and the way you kind of stated it, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, was that he was attacking students in Canada.
No, I never said that.
Or you said that he was. You used the word attack, which highlighted why I kind of went into it. What's your take on that guy?
I think he's overrated. He's a smart guy, and a lot of his the things that he has to say are pretty spot on. But he's kind of overrated, because one of the things that I disagree with him strongly, for instance, and I think when we were talking about him, it was about. And maybe I did use the word attack. I don't know. We can go back. It's recorded. The conversation is recorded.
Yeah, we were talking about art or religion in the.
Yeah. So he was basically saying that you cannot be creative or any of these things without religion, because basically, I think one of the people was asked, the other person in the interview, or during the panel, the other person in the panel, he was talking about, he was basically saying, name one thing that you would lose if we didn't have religion. Basically, what's the assertion of what does religion have to offer that you, what do we lose if we lose religion? And then Jordan Peterson goes off saying we would lose poetry, literature, art, all this stuff. And I was like, no, that's objectively wrong. I'm not religious at all, and obviously I can create art. The art that I create has nothing to do with religion, right? And I understand what he might have meant.
I think he was more talking about the foundation of how we got to today, where you have the ability to do all the stuff you can do was built on societies that praised, or I guess valued art in a religious sense more.
Yeah, and I understand that principle, but he's just wrong, because if we were to literally lose all religion, humans would find things to still create with, right? Like if we, for instance, just like been wiped out and history resetted, humans would find ways to still create. I think that's just inherently a human trait. And that's why I say he's wrong. He's objectively
That's also
wrong.
hypothetical. We haven't ever experienced that. We've only experienced the development of art in religious sense.
Also, from like an art historical standpoint, it's not really true either. If we're talking about like religious or like really heavily religious art, was a product of like the Dark Ages, and before that, Roman art was not really super religiously based. So actually, like one of the biggest declines in the development of art is from religion, and we didn't really get back to producing high quality art until we broke free from those constraints again in the Renaissance. So there's a lot of
I just think it's objectively. I think it's not a theory. It's not even a hypothetical. Like it's clear. Like you don't have to have like the way you create art has nothing to do with religion. It's an indirect effect of it. It's the reason why you draw. You only draw what you know. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's how our brains work. We can only create from what we actually know. And if you only know religions, then you're most likely going to draw religious things or be in a religious band, for whatever reason, right? But if you were born just look at like a kid, man. They have no concept of religion. They have no concept of social societies, but they draw all the things that they know, like houses and dogs and their mom and their dad, the sun, the sky, the tree. They don't draw Jesus. Does that make sense? Unless you tell them about Jesus. And then they start drawing Jesus. Mm-hmm. These kids do not, at a very primal level, draw some abstract belief system until you infuse them with that. Okay, so that's why he's wrong. That's why he's objectively wrong, and I don't know why he sticks to it so intently. I think it's because he's Christian and he doesn't want to admit it intellectually, because he understands that he would have to be intellectually dishonest more often. So he does a lot of language distortion. He redefines words that we all agree on, right? Like for instance, in the same debate, he's like, yeah, these supernatural beings and these supernatural tendencies. Just because it seems supernatural doesn't mean that it's reality, or like whatever. Or like, I forget exactly this assertion, but Jordan Peterson was like saying, well, how do you define supernatural? And it's like things you don't see in the natural world, right? And he was like, well, what do you mean by like, and so you see what I'm saying? He tries to reconstruct the argument so then he has some leg to stand on. Because if we both agree, supernatural means like believing in some sort of crazy deity or some sort of crazy event that we just don't see happening often, right? Like if I were to say to you that I saw a pink unicorn descend from the heavens, shooting flames from its horns, eating children in droves of thousands, that would be a supernatural claim. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Right? He would say, well, what do you mean by unicorn? Like that's like, no, come on. Yeah. Like we can't have a civil conversation if you keep doing that, right? Yeah. And that's why I think he's overrated, right? But I'm not saying that he's dumb. He's a really smart guy. He's clearly really intellectual. He has a lot of great points he makes about other things, right? Yeah. And just because I may disagree with him on other things doesn't mean that I should disagree with him everything, because that's not rational. That's not a reasonable thing to do. Like if someone makes a good point, then they make a good point.
Yeah, it's about the point, not the person.
Yeah, exactly. It's about the ideas that are being claimed, and that's my position on him. Someone who I think has way more respect and who does get sometimes backlash a lot is Sam Harris. Sam Harris is intellectually consistent, right? Like he believes in things, or he'll agree with principles and ideas that he doesn't do in his own life, and like he doesn't actually follow. But he understands the intellectual weight around the arguments, and he can't deny them, you know? even if he, for whatever reason, has some sort of sense of disagreement. And I think Sam Harris is a much more respectable intellectual to listen to than Jordan Peterson. He just happens to be the hot ticket right now. He's really good at bashing social justice warriors. But I mean, come on, some of these extreme social justice warriors are really easy to bash.
It's easy target.
Yeah, they don't have strong arguments. Like anybody can really take them down. And so I think that's why he's like the hero of the social justice movement. But I don't think that he's a bad guy. I don't think that he's like a bigot or racist or any of these things that people claim him to be. I think that's not true. He just makes strong arguments that make your belief systems on blast. And so people will, do attacks on personalities and persons versus the argument, right? Because they lost. And so, and it happens to me all the time. Like I made a strong argument against guns one day, and someone was like, "Well, who are you to say like you had this and that?" And I'm like, "What does that have to do with my argument?" Because I could be a serial murderer / rapist, and my argument will still have better bearing. It's like it has nothing to do. Like if I'm a serial murderer and run people over, and I say the sky is blue, it doesn't mean the sky's not blue anymore because I'm a terrible person. And so that's why I try to avoid personal attacks. I really do. And then I focus on the arguments. And so I say he's overrated specifically because I think people see that he's really articulate and makes strong, like he uses words really well, but he does what I don't think is a good way to debate, which is he tries to redefine too many terms too often. And when you do that, like you're trying to put the ball in your court, so then your argument can have some bearing. But the rest of us don't live in that court. So you need to stop doing that, Jordan Peterson. Like just own up. Like you're a Christian and it's weird and nobody, like a lot of people don't think that's a thing. Like that's fine. Like it's no big deal, dude. Like you don't have to have some of my best friends are Christian and I never have them explain what I believe it to be not real. It's not a big deal. I love them. Like some of my best friends are people I love dearly. I would actually die for them versus some of my friends who are atheists. You understand? It has nothing, like the way I go about my life has nothing to do with what you believe. I just won't believe it if you tell it to me. That's the difference. But if you're nice to me and you're a great person, I don't care. Like when I had my brain surgery and my friend, he prayed for me. I wasn't like, what? Because that's rude. That's incredibly rude. He's doing it. That's what he believes is going to help me, and he's doing it because he loves me and he cares about me. He wants me to get better. And this is what he believes is going to help me. I don't believe it's going to, but I'm not going to make a strong argument against it. Like it's stupid, it's not reasonable, And so that's kind of how I roll around in the world. That's kind of the way that I think about it. And I think most people should do that too. Anything that you feel strongly about, listen to the other argument. There's a way of thinking about this. People call it straw manning, where you try to redirect the argument to something else. You should do something called steel manning. Okay, I got to get going, guys. Well, I'll make this last point and I have to run. Steel manning is understanding your opponent's argument at its strongest point, and then trying to dismantle that argument, not a misdirected argument. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you want to have a stronger, or you want people to listen to your opinions or your thoughts, then steel man their arguments, meaning understand their arguments, but even make a better case for them and then dismantle it, right? If you feel like you can't. And, or you might realize, hey, actually, I might be wrong. That could be true. Most likely that's true. But anyways, I got to get going. I got to run to pick up my daughter. But it was a great Q&A session. Next time, maybe more art questions.
Mm-hmm. All right. See you, Jay.
But take care, guys. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys real soon. Work hard, guys. Be consistent. And study. All right.
Yeah.
All right. See ya.
Later, guys.
See you.
Well, see you guys.
See you.
Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.